The Grand Metropole Hotel in London pulsed with the energy of a global AI tech summit. At 3 p.m., sunlight streamed through its vast ornate windows, illuminating a lobby awash in marble, gilded accents, and the hushed murmurs of the elite. The air, thick with the scent of polished wood and possibility, hinted at deals being struck and innovations unveiled. Alex Thorne, a man in his mid-30s, pushed through the revolving doors, his presence almost jarring against the opulent backdrop. Dressed in comfortable dark jeans, a simple crew neck sweater, and carrying a worn leather backpack, he looked more like a student than the billionaire CEO of Apex Global Holdings. Alex had recently acquired the Grand Metropole, finalizing the deal just a week prior. This visit was a deliberate test, booked under his common maiden name, Thorne, without the usual fanfare or entourage. He wanted to see how his new establishment treated someone who didn't project obvious wealth, especially given whispers of elitist practices within the hotel's long-standing management. He approached the polished oak front desk. Benjamin Ben Carter, a man in his late 20s with meticulously gelled hair and a perpetually bored expression, barely glanced up. His sharp navy suit, emblazoned with the Metropole crest, seemed to stiffen as Alex handed over his ID. Royal Penthouse Suite, Mr. Thorne. Ben repeated, a faint smirk playing on his lips, his eyes flicking from the worn backpack to Alex's casual sweater. Are you quite sure? That's our most exclusive booking. The question, loaded with judgment, hung in the air. Alex's dark eyes, sharp and intelligent, met Ben's gaze. Quite sure, he replied, his voice calm, an undercurrent of resolve detectable only to the keenest ear. Ben's fingers hovered over the keyboard, a flicker of doubt crossing his face before it hardened into a dismissive sneer. He picked up the phone. Isabella, a moment, please. Within seconds, Isabella Rossi, the hotel manager, strode across the marble floor. Her tailored blazer and severe bun exuded an icy authority. She was in her early 40s, and her gaze was a practiced sweep of assessment, lingering on Alex's understated attire. Mr. Thorne. She began, her voice clipped. The Royal Penthouse requires a verified corporate account or a substantial pre-authorization. We'll need proof of funds. Her words were not a request but a challenge, layered with the assumption he couldn't meet it. Alex felt the familiar sting, not of anger, but of recognition. This was precisely why he was here. He calmly pulled a plain black card from his wallet. Run it, he said, his voice unwavering. Isabella took the card, her smirk subtle but present. This isn't a budget inn, sir, she murmured, handing the card to Ben, who swiped it with theatrical slowness. The system pinged, a quiet chime that seemed to startle Ben. He stared at the screen, his brow furrowing. It cleared, he muttered, almost to himself, as if the machine had betrayed him. Isabella's smirk faltered, but only for a moment. Cleared or not, we adhere to strict protocol. She stated, her voice louder now, meant to carry. We need to know the origin of such funds for security purposes. It's hotel policy. Alex's grip tightened imperceptibly on his backpack strap. Policy? He echoed, his voice dangerously soft. Then follow it. Verify my booking. Do your job. His challenge landed like a gauntlet. Just then, Lord Reginald Blackwood and Lady Penelope Harrington, a notoriously snobbish couple attending the summit, swept into the lobby. Isabella, darling. Reginald boomed, his voice dripping with condescension. Why is this man holding up your desk? We're already behind schedule. Penelope, adjusting the diamond choker at her throat, looked Alex up and down. Good heavens, he looks like he's just off a coach tour. Surely not a guest of our metropole. Alex turned, his eyes meeting Penelope's without a flicker of fear. I am checking into my room, he stated, his voice calm. Reginald snorted. His room? Darling, you look like you got lost on the way to a hostel. The royal penthouse is for our guests, real guests. His cruel laugh echoed off the marble. Samuel Sam Ojo, a black tech executive awaiting his own key, gripped his briefcase, his lips pressed in silent indignation. Chloe Davies, a young bellhop, froze by a luggage cart, her eyes wide with unease. Isabella seized the moment. "Mr. Thorne, you're causing a scene. If you can't verify your booking, I'll have to ask you to leave." She nodded to Ben, who reached for the phone. "Security can sort this out, or the police." Alex stood unmoving, his gaze fixed on Isabella. "You're escalating this," he said, his voice low but piercing. "And you're wrong." Penelope's laugh was sharp. "Wrong, darling? You're out of your depth. This hotel is for people who belong here, not whatever you are." Her dismissive wave was as elegant as it was vicious. Sam could hold back no longer. "You can't talk to him like that," he called out, his voice shaking but clear. Chloe, emboldened, whispered to Sam, "This isn't right." Reginald's eyes narrowed. "He's here to stir trouble. Probably thinks he can bluff his way into a suite we've already paid for." He turned to Isabella. "Why is he still here?" "Remove him." Isabella's nod was immediate. "Ben, make the call." Ben dialed, his fingers trembling but resolute. "Security's on the way," he announced, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "Perhaps they'll figure out where he got that card." The accusation landed like a whip. Alex pulled out his phone, his movements deliberate. "Leo," he said, dialing his executive assistant. "It's time. Protocol Apex 4. Leo's voice crackled through, steady and efficient. "Understood. Alex, corporate is on standby. I'm pulling the acquisition logs now." Isabella scoffed. "A phone call won't save you. You're trespassing on private property." "Trespassing?" Alex's voice was deceptively soft. "You're the one overstepping." Sam stepped forward, his voice louder. "He paid for his room. You're targeting him for no reason." Chloe spoke up. "He's a guest. Why are you doing this?" Penelope snapped. "Enough of this nonsense. He's here to disrupt our event. Isabella, do your job." Isabella leaned toward Ben. "Tell them to hurry. We've got a potential thief." Ben's voice, now steady, carried over the phone. "Yes, it's urgent. Suspected financial fraud. He's refusing to leave." The lie, bold and practiced, hung in the air, a noose tightening. Alex pressed his phone to his ear. Leo's voice was a quiet anchor. "Logs are ready. What's your next move?" Alex's eyes locked on Isabella, then Ben, then the aristocrats, each a cog in a machine he was prepared to dismantle. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice rising just enough to command the lobby. "And it's going to cost you." Isabella's smirk faltered. "The only cost here is your dignity," she countered. "Leave or you'll be dragged out." The lobby crackled. Just then, the grand oak doors swung open, and 2 uniformed police officers entered, their boots tracking snow across the polished marble. "We got a report of suspected fraud." The lead officer, a woman with keen gray eyes, stated calmly. "Can someone explain?" Ben pointed a trembling finger at Alex. "He's impersonating a high-value guest. That card is stolen." Sam immediately stepped forward. "That's not true. He's the owner." The officer raised a brow, turning to Alex. "Sir?" Alex, unflinching, opened his worn backpack. From inside, he pulled not only his original booking confirmation but also a notarized corporate ID, a framed letter from the Apex Global Holdings Board, and a thick stack of recent acquisition documents. The light glinted off the Apex Global logo on his ID. "I am Alexander Thorne," he stated, his voice resonating with quiet authority. "CEO of Apex Global Holdings. These employees," he gestured to Isabella and Ben, are falsely accusing me of fraud and called you to intimidate me. Not only am I a paying guest, but as of last week, I am the owner of the Grand Metropole Hotel." A collective gasp swept through the lobby. Isabella's face drained of color, her jaw slack. Ben's phone clattered to the counter, his eyes wide with terror. Reginald and Penelope recoiled, their aristocratic poise crumbling. "Furthermore," Alex continued, his voice now addressing the stunned crowd, "the AI Tech Summit happening in this very hotel. It's being covertly hosted by Apex Global. We're about to announce our new Inclusive Innovations Initiative, a paradigm shift for our industry. My acquisition of the Grand Metropole was strategic, directly informed by confidential reports detailing systemic, classist, and appearance-based bias within its operations. This was a live audit." The revelation landed like a thunderclap. Sam clapped, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. "Yes," he shouted. Chloe beamed, a tear glistening in her eye. The police officer, initially perplexed, nodded slowly. "I'll need a full report," she said, her tone hardening as she eyed Isabella and Ben. "But this clearly isn't a fraud case. False reports are serious, especially against a property owner." Alex turned to Isabella, his voice like steel. "Isabella Rossi, you are terminated immediately for gross misconduct, discriminatory practices, and abuse of authority." He then turned to Ben. "Benjamin Carter, you are also terminated for fabricating a fraud accusation and harassing a guest." Isabella's mouth opened, but no words came. Ben sank against the desk, his meticulously gelled hair now a mess. Alex pivoted to Reginald and Penelope, his eyes blazing. "Lord Blackwood, Lady Harrington, your booking is cancelled. You are permanently banned from all Apex Global properties for discriminatory conduct. Leave my hotel now." Penelope's diamond choker seemed to choke her. "You can't," she stammered, but Sam cut in, his voice fierce. "He just did." The lobby erupted in murmurs, guests nodding, some clapping softly. Chloe, the bellhop, whispered to Sam, "He's unstoppable." Sam nodded, pride in his eyes. "He's justice." Alex raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. "This isn't just about me," he said, his voice ringing through the lobby. "It's about every guest who's been judged, dismissed, or erased in spaces like this." He turned to the officers. "I'm D, escalating this in-house, but I want your report to document their false call. It's evidence." The officer nodded. "Done." As Isabella and Ben were quietly escorted out by a newly arrived security detail, a petite, elderly woman in a faded wool coat stepped forward. It was Mrs. Evelyn Hayes. "Mr. Thorne." Her voice raspy. "I was a concierge in luxury hotels for 40 years, starting in the 70s. We were explicitly taught to judge by appearance, by assumed class. I'm ashamed of what I witnessed today, and of my own past complicity. Let me assist." Alex met her gaze, his expression softening. "Mrs. Hayes, your voice matters now. Speak to my team. Your experience will be invaluable." Alex pulled out his phone. "Leo?" He spoke into it. "Corporates approved the Apex Fairness Protocol. Verbal audits, bias tracking, and guest dignity pledges begin tomorrow. Training teams are en route. Also, pull all guest complaint logs from the last 5 years, especially those flagged as unverified by previous management." Leo's voice crackled with grim precision. "Already on it, Alex." 6 dozen complaints flagged for unusual activity or unverifiable claims, over half of them from guests of color or those with non-traditional appearances. We're reviewing them all. Alex's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "Expose it all, no more shadows. This hotel will close temporarily. No bookings, no services until every employee faces what happened here today and learns what it means to serve with true fairness and respect." The guests didn't groan, They cheered, their applause raw and unscripted. Sam approached, his briefcase no longer a shield but a badge of honor. "I came for a summit," he said. "You gave me something bigger, a reason to believe." Alex placed a hand on his shoulder. "You believed in me first. That's where this starts. Would you consider joining our advisory board for the Inclusive Innovations Initiative?" Sam's eyes widened, a wide grin breaking across his face. "Absolutely." Chloe, the bellhop, raised her hand. "Mr. Thorne, can I stay? I want to help." Alex smiled warmly. "Chloe, your interim front desk lead. You've earned it." Alex surveyed the lobby, its grandeur now infused with a new, authentic warmth. "The Grand Metropole isn't just my hotel," he announced, his voice ringing through the space. "It's ours. We will rebuild it together, with truth, not titles." The applause swelled, not just for him, but for the future he'd ignited. As Alex led the officers to a side office to finalize the report, the lobby pulsed with new life. The snow outside fell softer, the morning light streamed brighter, and the guests lingered not as spectators, but as witnesses to a dawn that would outshine the old. Alex Thorne's shadow stretched long, his backpack no longer just luggage, but a map of battles won and worlds remade. The Grand Metropole was no longer a place, it was a promise, and Alexander Thorne, the CEO in a simple sweater, was its keeper.